Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. So for today's video, we are doing another ranking video. This time I'm gonna rank all 87, that's right, 87 of my Colourpop palettes. So definitely sit back, relax. This is going to be a long video. So you guys want to see what my least favorite is to my number one favorite palette from Colourpop, well then definitely keep watching. Alrighty guys, so before we dive into today's video, I just want to give a quick shout out to my mom because it's my mom's birthday. So happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Make sure you guys go tell her happy birthday in the comment section because she will definitely read them. Okay, so you guys seem to really enjoy my glam light ranking videos. So I was like, all right, what do you guys want to see next? And then so many of you guys said Colourpop. So I went through my collection and I'm like, holy crap, I have a lot of Colourpop palettes. I have 87 to be exact. 87 Colourpop palettes. That's insane. But you guys know how much I love Colourpop. I have been reviewing them for years. So this is gonna be a little bit of a longer video. Now there are some things that are kind of like grouped together because there is some stuff that came out like as collections, like the Animal Crossing, like the Hello Kitty. There's like more than just one palette released during that, so those are gonna be kind of clumped together. This should be so much fun. I'm gonna go over the reasons why it's my least favorite to my number one favorite, but at the end of the day, you guys know how much I love Colourpop. These palettes are all amazing. I have such fond memories of all these palettes because I pretty much reviewed almost every single one. So with that said, this is gonna be a long video, so we're just gonna go ahead and dive right on into it. So I'm not going to sit here and say the number because I know I'm going to lose count, but starting off from my least favorite, we do have the Lunar Has It collection. Now this actually launched in 2021. I bought it and I don't really know what I was expecting when I bought it, but it just is not really my favorite at all. Like, so here is the color scheme for this one. And you guys know it's not up my alley at all when it comes to this particular color scheme. There's nothing wrong with the shadows at all. What I do think is really great about this, it is a magnet palette, so you can switch up the color scheme. You can switch out the colors in here, so I really do appreciate that. Same with the next one right here, which will become number 86. It's a prettier palette. It definitely has more colors for me, but again, it's more neutral. And I don't know, I wasn't wowed with this launch. Like, this launch did not wow me in the slightest. I really do enjoy the formula, but I just thought that these shadows were I thought the color scheme was just very bland and just definitely not my favorite. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, you guys already know what liquid lip I'm wearing. It is the Lunar Beauty Aphrodite liquid lip, which you guys can use code Allie to save you guys 10% off your purchase. It's my favorite. All right, next we do have the Build Your Own Colourpop palette. So I was able to build my own, and this is what I came up with. And I don't know, I'm not that impressed with it. Originally, when I was building my palette, they had all of these really cool colors on it, and then when they were launching this, they like switched up the color scheme, and then I wasn't that impressed. Like, again, it's another empty magnet, so I could take these shades out and mix it with other ones, but I'm not gonna really use this one. In reality, it's just not a pretty color scheme for me, even though I personally picked it out myself. I'm just looking at it going, it's kind of bland. All right, next we do have the Main Squeeze. This was their watermelon palette, and I have such fond memories of doing that review because I think that's like one of the first times a Colourpop video of mine did well for what it was. It got like 4,000 or 5,000 views, and I was like, oh my God, like, who is she? And at that time, I think I only had like, I don't know, a couple thousand subscribers, so it meant everything to me. But here is the Watermelon Squeeze palette. Need I say more? Need I say more? It's just not for me. I don't really care for reds. I don't know, I find reds to be very intimidating, even though I love like a good red lip. Red, a little can go a long way, and if you mess up a red eye look, you can look so sick and just bad, and it just stains, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. The packaging is super cute though, but no. Alrighty, next we have the Strawberry Shake palette. Again, this is a cute palette, but just not for me. Just definitely a color scheme that's not really up my alley at all. It's just pinky, and I don't know. Once I reviewed this, I never really found myself gravitating to it again. It does have really pretty shimmers in here. I love the shade Delish. That was a very gorgeous shade, but again, these are just colors that are just not necessarily for me. Then we kind of have this fancy collection right here. Now, I remember when I did this video, I was just so, I think I might have done it here. I think I might have reviewed that collection here. I don't remember. But I think the outside packaging is just so beautiful. And I remember I struggled how to say these names, but I went through it. I did 3 different eye looks for you guys. And again, this is just a color scheme that's not really for me. It is a very gorgeous outside packaging. I think it's like a flower theme, like fancy flower theme. And it is a cute palette, but again, these are colors that I just generally wouldn't necessarily gravitate to. I remember I struggled with one of the palettes. I don't remember exactly which one I struggled with, but when I do look at this collection, I do smile because I do have good memories of reviewing this palette. Like I remember this one, I still, Barquet, I don't know how to say it, but I just love the outside packaging. I think that's what drew me more to it than anything else, than the actual color scheme. I could not even tell you what looks I came up with in this video. Like in the slightest, I think I remember viewing it here in this apartment, but I don't remember. Then we have Grandeur. I thought this one was like the prettiest one. Although it does have that pressed glitter that I'm not a big fan of pressed glitter, but then we have this one. Again, beautiful outside packaging, but just palettes that didn't really like wow me. Next we have the Candy Castle. This was when they did their Candyland theme, and the PR box I think was one of the first PR boxes that I bought from Colourpop, and it was like a cute little PR box. The palette though was very underwhelming. It's cute pastel, but I don't know. I literally reviewed it. I don't even think in the review I was very overwhelmed. I don't think in the review I was wowed by this palette either, but it's cute, but I don't know. I just feel like it's just very lackluster, and used it one time and didn't pick it up again. Then we have the So Very Lovely palette. I don't know. It's just very plain Jane to me. Nothing stands out about it. I have nothing else to say other than that. Like nothing really stands out about it. So, yeah, I think I got this in a mystery box. I didn't personally buy this one. I think I got it in a mystery box, but I just know that I don't really gravitate to it that often. Then we have the Limoncello. This is a cute palette. I won't lie, it's a cute palette. I really do love like the outside packaging. I thought they did such a good job with this, and same with like on the inside because they put like little lemons and stuff like that. But I don't know, I thought the palette itself was kind of underwhelming for what it was. And I just wasn't that impressed with this particular palette or this launch. I love the packaging more than the actual like the shadows in the inside, if that makes any sense. That's why it's like definitely really down on my list, because I just was more happy about the physical, how the palette physically looked than the actual palette. Same thing with the Garden Variety. The same thing with this one. Again, it's a really cute palette, but I don't know, I feel like this color scheme is featured so much in so many other Colourpop palettes that I like the look I created with this. I had fun filming this video, but again, I don't know. When I look at it now, I'm not excited about it like I used to be. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why it's so far down. I feel like this video might be kind of fast because I feel like there's only so much I could say, because at the end of the day, Colourpop has amazing formula. I can never take away from their formula. It's amazing. It's just more about does the packaging and does the packaging and the color scheme excite me. So next we have the Milan. Now this was such a hectic launch because this happened right when we went into COVID, and I remember I was not able to get my hands on this collection. You guys were able to buy it for me. That was like the sweetest thing that had ever happened, because I just did not expect that. You guys were truly unbelievably amazing. And I remember you guys sent this to me and I wasn't able to review the whole thing, and then I got it, and it is a really cute palette, but I don't know, I feel like they could have done more with the Milan theme. I think, remember in my video, I said there was only like one red. Milan should have had a lot more reds. It's just a very, very brown tone palette, and it just doesn't fit the theme of Milan to me personally. I think the packaging says more about Milan. I think the packaging says more about Milan than the physical palette. So it's why it's like pretty far down on my list. Just because I remember being like a really, really hyped up launch, because it was supposed to coincide with the movie, but then everything happened, and I feel like this is one of those launches that people are just like, oh, you know, like, because I remember they had to like re-release it. Next we have the Powerpuff Girls. I know, I had them pretty far down, but it's a really cute palette. It's a really cute palette, but I don't know. I just like, there's other palettes in my Colourpop that I just prefer so much more than this. I do love the actual packaging. I feel like they did a really good job with the color scheme, but I don't know. Just doesn't excite me like it did when it first launched. I was so excited when it first launched, but now that I've like been looking at it in my collection, I'm like, You know, it's amazing how much my taste changes. Then we have Free to Be. This is another mystery box palette. I honestly haven't played with this palette, but I'm not really that excited when it comes to Colourpop when they have like the little 4 minis. Like they just don't really excite me that often just because I don't ever really use these ones. I like it when Colourpop has bigger palettes. To me, that's just more exciting. It gives me more variety of colors to choose from. And I just feel like their little 4 pen palettes just don't really excite me at all and give me anything to really look forward to or to create looks with. So I feel like these ones could definitely be passed on whenever they do these launches. Again, this is another mystery box one. This is the Hello Kitty. I actually skipped on this collection because at that point I knew that I don't really get much use out of the Colourpop little minis like this. They're super cute, but at the end of the day, I like to have, like I said, more variety. Like whenever there's only 4 shadows in here, it kind of limits on what type of look I can create. And yeah, so I kind of find these ones not to be as exciting. Next we do have, which is a shock, the Bambi collection. Now this, like the outside packaging is so cute. I like was so excited for this because you guys know I have a very, very soft spot for Disney, obviously. And I just felt like these are super cute for sure. I remember Bambi being like one of my favorites because I do have a soft spot for these, for like yellows and stuff like that. But then it's just been sitting in my collection and I haven't really felt drawn to really play with these that much. You know, like, I don't know, just I haven't felt the need and the draw to want to play with these. I'm glad I have them, but again, I feel like they could have done something cool where all this could have been like in one palette together. I feel like they really did fit the color scheme of Bambi, but I just kind of wish that they were like put all together and not separated. And yeah, so that's why it's pretty far down on my list. So we do have the Animal Crossing, and again, these are those little 4 pan palettes. They're cute. They definitely are very, very cute, but again, I just don't really go for like small little palettes like this anymore. I just don't. I like the bigger palettes out of these, and they put so many of these in like the mystery boxes that they had, and I just I ended up just passing those along to so many of you guys because I got quite a few of these small little Animal Crossing palettes. And remember, these were actually a little pricey for what they are. For 4 shadows, they're a little pricey. And yeah, next, like I said, we have, so I could kind of this, like I said, this is like a weird ranking. We have all their little 5 pan palettes right here. So we have the Forever Cashmere. I got this in a mystery box, and it's cute. Like, it is a cute palette, but I don't know. I feel like these ones do remind me a lot of the Natasha Denona ones that they have, but I just don't really gravitate to these ones that often. And I remember I bought these because of like Valentine's Day launches. Like, this was a Valentine's Day launch, and this is like a red theme palette, which I automatically am not really the big fan of just because I don't really use these particular colors. They're cute palettes. It's great to have if I ever like want a variety of like picking out shimmers and stuff like that, but I just don't get as excited. Like these ones right here, I remember I bought all of these and I reviewed every single palette. Well, I did like looks for all these palettes for you guys. And they're cute, but they're just, I don't know, they don't excite me anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I know some of you guys are like, oh, pass them along. Oh, that's the hardest thing for me. I work so hard for my eyes. I work so hard to have all the palettes. So it's hard for me to like just get rid of them, you know? One day I think I might, but I'm very proud of my Colourpop collection. But like these right here, they're cute. But I remember these being like $10 for 5 shadows, which is pretty expensive for Colourpop. And I'm not the biggest fan of their shimmers. I'm not the biggest fan of their glitters. And I just wish that they would get away from the glitter aspect just because they're not that great. And I feel like I would have loved these palettes just a little bit more if they definitely had more shimmers to them than pressed glitters. But it is what it is. See? Like these just don't excite me at all, so. But I had fun. I'm glad I got them because it was like a fun review for me. Okay, so next we do have the entire like Zodiac collection right here. I bought the entire thing and I ended up only using a few palettes because at the end of the day, I don't need all these palettes at all, but I wanted to review it. I had a lot of fun when I reviewed these and I talked about them in my video. But these are, again, those 4 small palettes that I just don't really get that excited about. I had a lot of fun in the video, but I mean, at the end of the day, it just was really unrealistic for me to try out every single eyeshadow and review it, especially because at the end of the day, I know Colourpop's formula. But these are cute, but again, these like those 4 shadows, like 4 pan palettes that I just don't really get that much use out of. So that's why it's like here, and I don't really know how to mark it, whether I just mark it as just one or all individually, but yeah, so it like just goes down in order. Like I said, I did a whole video if you guys want to see the whole video of it. I'll even put like a picture right here so you guys can see all the colors of them. But these are just, they're cool, you know, that I liked having it, but I just don't really necessarily gravitate to this as I do so many other Colourpop palettes. These ones just don't really excite me that much, so. Next, we do have the Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell, this was a cute palette. I really did like the design of this. And I don't know, I just feel like I don't really use this one as much as I do other ones. It's a really pretty palette, I'll definitely give it that. But I just prefer other palettes over this, and I feel like the way that they designed Tinkerbell was just a little bit different than how they did other Disney collections. Like other Disney collections, they actually put like the real character. They made this one more like realistic, which is cool, but I don't know. This was such a hassle. When I first ordered this collection, if I'm correct from what I can remember, I didn't really review that many Colourpop at that time. I remember I was really getting into Colourpop when this launched, and I got sent the wrong order. I think I got sent someone else's order, and stuff got back ordered, and then this palette came in, and I was so excited for it. And then when I played with it, I was like, oh, it wasn't that exciting anymore. But here's the palette right here. This is when Colourpop definitely had different ways it did their. This is when Colourpop was different with their palettes. The shadows were a lot smaller. But it's cute. I don't really see the villain in it anymore. Like, I just don't see the theme of it. I remember being so excited because it's Disney villain theme, and I just don't really see the villains in this at all. And they don't even like use the names of all the villains in this one. I feel like this is when they're kind of like hitting. This is when they're starting to work with like Disney, and they don't have any like villain names, just like the villain areas. So this is a really underwhelming palette compared to what I thought it'd be. Same thing with the Midnight Masquerade. This is the Disney designer. Now they have the Disney Princesses, which I don't have that one, but I remember being so excited to get this, and it is a pretty palette, but again, I don't know. I feel like they've done so much better now with hitting the themes of Disney when they do Disney stuff now. They've done so much better job, but back then maybe they didn't fully have the rights. Maybe it was just a lot different. Contracts are different, so it doesn't really hit the theme for me as like the Disney Princesses or Disney Masquerades. That's why these ones are kind of like further down the list, because I feel like they did such a better job later on. But this is the Midnight Masquerade. Next we have the Lizzie Mcguire. I was so excited to review this, and it's such a fun palette for sure. I think it's really pretty, and I think it really does hit the theme of Lizzie Mcguire so much. Like, this to me looks like Lizzie Mcguire. It just reminds me of the 90s. It gets me like very nostalgic for my past, and I have nothing bad to say about this. I just prefer other palettes more than this one, but I thought this was a really well thought out palette. I thought Colourpop did such a phenomenal job with the Lizzie Mcguire launch. I love this palette, and yeah, I just love other ones more. Same thing with like the Disney Malibu Barbie. I had a lot of fun in that video. I got to be kind of creative, and again, it's a really beautiful palette. I can see the Malibu theme in this one. This one is definitely like what I'm talking about when I talk about Colourpop putting more shadows. Then it's like more worth it to me than the small individual ones. But yeah, this is the Malibu Barbie, and this was such a fun palette to play with. And we have the Cabana Club. I wanted this palette so bad, and my beautiful friend Jennifer sent this to me, and along with my Outlander sweater, which is the most comfortable sweater, by the way. But this is such a gorgeous palette. I think this is definitely that perfect summer palette. If you guys are looking for like a summer spring, this is that palette you want to go for. The shadows are really beautiful for sure. They really have that water-esque theme to it. And I just think this is such a gorgeous palette. I think Colourpop did a great job with this one. But again, there's other palettes that I still just prefer a little bit more. And maybe just because a lot of the ones that are coming up I have reviewed long ago, and I have such sentimental values with them. So I feel like that's why they rank higher on my list, because each one that's coming up like means a lot to me. So starting with It's My Pleasure. I got introduced to so many of you guys because of this palette. Like, there's one subscriber in particular, her name is Melissa. It was like one of the first times I really got to have a nice conversation in my DMs with a subscriber, because her palette was different than mine. I think she got sent two of the same shades in one of her palettes, and she was like asking me about it. And I remember being at my first I remember that was like the first I remember being at my old apartment, and that was like my first apartment that I got on my own when Corey and I had split for a time being. And I just remember reviewing this palette, and I had such a love for this palette. Like, I had such a love for this palette. I got it during I think it's like one of the first like Colourpop palettes I reviewed besides like the Colourpop mystery box. I look at it with such nostalgia and such happiness. Like, this brings me happiness seeing this, because this is like where my journey started with Colourpop and with YouTube, and this is kind of where I grew because of Colourpop, because I started to really dive into Colourpop and being so excited. And I remember this palette and the Colourpop mystery bag was like really what launched me to love Colourpop and to try it out a lot more. And so I will always have a very soft spot for this. It's why this is the only one that doesn't have a case, because at that time, it's one of the first Colourpop palettes I reviewed. I didn't save any casing at the time. I wish I did. So I just have this one. It's the only one that's not in its box, because you guys know I tend to keep the packaging. But I don't think I'll ever get rid of this palette, just because it does like hit home and it hits such a soft spot. Because I distinctly remember sitting there with the mystery box and putting on this eye look. And when I look at it now, the eye look is way too intense. It's a really, really, really ugly eye look. But it just means so much to me because it just reminds me of such good memories and like my journey here on YouTube. So I will always hold this one in a very, very soft spot for me. Next, we do have the Smoke Show. And this is a very gorgeous palette from Colourpop. I just don't use it as much because I just don't really use black and grays that often. But if I ever do want to do like a black and gray eye look, like this is definitely the palette to go for. I remember when I did this video, I remember I used a black liquid lip with like some white in it. And it was such a pretty lip. I love when I do like a black eyeshadow, I wear black lips with it. I just think it's such a pretty look for me personally. And this is such a gorgeous palette. Very gorgeous palette, but I just don't use it that often because these are colors I generally just don't really dip into. This would be like that. This palette for me like be like a perfect like Halloween palette if I'm trying to do anything like that, because I just don't really do black smoky eyes personally. Okay, so now we're really starting to dive into my past, and if you guys have been here with me for quite some time, you guys will hopefully remember me reviewing these on my channel. So first off, we have the Lilac You A Lot. I remember I did a comparison to the It's My Pleasure palette, and this is a gorgeous palette for sure. It's just is very, very, very comparable to the It's My Pleasure palette. But again, It's My Pleasure palette. I remember I compared these two in my video. I remember saying that these two complement each other very well. This is just more of a lighter tone. And yeah, it's just bringing back such fond memories of me reviewing this stuff and talking about it and being in my kitchen. I used to film in my kitchen at my old place. And it's just very, very fond memories for me. This is a cute palette. I remember really enjoying this palette, but I think the reason why it's a little bit further down, again, is because I think the reason it's a little bit further down is because they have that pressed glitter in there, and I'm just not a fan of pressed glitters anymore. This is still a very beautiful palette. I think you can create a very soft, neutral eye look with this. But this one I just don't gravitate to as often as I do the other ones that are coming up because, I don't know, I just prefer those ones more. So we do have the Big Poppy. I didn't review this one for you guys. I remember I bought it when they were doing the 30% off sale. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I think this is a perfect palette when it comes to the fall season. I love that they have some all matte palettes because these are the type of shadows, these are the type of palettes I gravitate to during that particular time. If I'm trying to do like a mustard yellow or like a burnt orange, these are the palettes that I go for because they do have those mattes. I can go into any other Colourpop palette, find the shimmers that I'm looking for, and definitely like match them up together. But it is a really, really gorgeous palette. Next, we do have Miss Bliss. It came with the In a Trance and Aura and Out. And I remember being at the aquarium when this launched, and I missed the whole bundle. So I had to buy these individually. This is such a beautiful collection. I definitely will say it's so freaking beautiful. So first we have the Miss Bliss, which is my least favorite, followed by the In a Trance, again, another beautiful pastel palette. But I love Aura Out. This one was my favorite. I definitely have a soft spot for this one because it is green. But these are very, very beautiful colors from Colourpop. These are like their pastels that they came out with, I want to say back in like 2020. I did a whole video review of all these. So if you guys want to go check them out, please definitely do. But this was such a fun collection. So beautiful. I love these palettes. I just wish I was able to buy them all as a set and not individually because I had to pay more because I had to buy them individually. All right, next we do have Blue Moon, and this is a beautiful palette. Remember, people were saying this one was very similar to the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette, and it actually is very, very similar to the color scheme of it. I remember I reviewed it. Remember I did a comparison of the two. It's a gorgeous blue eyeshadow palette. I have nothing bad to say about this. It's a very, very gorgeous eyeshadow palette. I love the fact that there was no pressed glitters in this. It was just all shimmers, and this is like when Colourpop used to just do like their 9-pan palettes that were $12, and they just do like cute little mini collections with them, and such good memories. Next we have the Just My Luck. Again, this is a beautiful palette. I had so much fun with this palette. I love the shade Mary Jane. It's probably like one of my favorite ones from Colourpop. It's a very gorgeous green eyeshadow palette. I really do miss the days of I really do miss when Colourpop did monochromatic palettes. These were always so much fun. Oh, I love them. All right, then we have On Cloud Blue. And this is a very beautiful, like, pastel looking palette. I really had a good time when I played with this and reviewed it. But they do have those pressed glitters in here. This is when Colourpop really started getting into their pressed glitters. So it's why, like, I'm not the biggest fan of them. But it's a very gorgeous pastel palette. I can't tell if this is like a ranking video or like me just showing off all my Colourpop palettes. That's what it feels like. All right, then we have the Cloud Spin palette. This is like another beautiful palette. This has those like soft pinks, and they just have those like the soft pastel pinks, but they do have those pressed glitters. Not the biggest fan of pressed glitters, but it's still a really gorgeous palette. Ooh, we were starting to narrow it down. Okay, so next we do have the Meant to Be. I loved this palette so much. I do have a love for mint. This was such a fun palette to use and create, and it definitely pairs well with all their other monochromatic palettes. And, like, you can pair this very well with their Just My Luck palette. But I feel like, oh, the shade is coming out. Oh, it's already back in. But it's such a beautiful palette for sure. I do have a soft spot for mint because I do love greens. But yeah, no, it's coming out again. This one just doesn't want to stay in here. This one is like popping out. But these are very beautiful for sure. I just don't really use them as much. Alrighty guys, then we have our Frozen 2. I bought the whole PR kit. I loved it. And this is such a beautiful palette, but the thing that kind of ruined it for me was the pressed glitter. You guys can tell I really had to dig in there. It's a gorgeous palette. I remember they released this right around the time that they were doing the Frozen 2. I definitely don't see Elsa as much in this as I used to. I just don't. But I remember I thought they did a really good job with the outside packaging and the theming because it really does look like Elsa. And I really did enjoy the launch that they created with this. It was a beautiful, beautiful PR box. Then we have the Anna palette right here. Now this definitely looks more like Anna to me. I remember I loved this one more than the Elsa. This definitely looks more like Anna. Again, I just wish they would have gone away with the pressed glitter, but it is a really gorgeous palette. I thought they did a really good job with the theming for both the palettes. Then we have Bum 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 Bum. I was so mad at Colourpop for how they did this launch dirty. I just wish that they would have given Darth Vader his moment. He is the star of Star Wars. Like, he is the face of Star Wars. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. And they could have done so much more. Now, I did enjoy playing with this palette. I love the shade Stormtrooper, but I just wish that they would have given this palette justice, the launch justice. They really dropped the ball on this one, and they could have done so much more with this palette. Definitely a lot more deep reds, blacks, grays, whites. It doesn't necessarily scream Darth Vader to me. I said that in the video, and I just wish they would have done more. I just wish I would have done more for him. He deserved his moment, and he never got it. I'm so sorry. Especially, like, they could have waited to launch this with, they should have waited to launch this until May 27th when the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is coming out, because the series takes place between 3 and 4, movies 3 and 4, and you kind of get to find out what happened to Obi-Wan, Anakin's transition fully into Darth Vader as he fully takes the role. Like, that would have been a perfect time to launch this full collection, but they definitely dropped the ball on that one. All right, then we do have The Mandalorian. Now, I never did review this for you guys. I do have it. I never reviewed it. It's a really beautiful palette. I definitely would say that. I think the shade Clan of Two and Tattooing Glimmer and Imperial Court were super pretty. I should have done a review for this. Maybe I will do it in like a Shop My Stash where I try this, or I would put the palette on for you guys. It's gorgeous. I do enjoy this. I thought they did a really good job with the theming for sure, but this again was one of those palettes that they just kind of launched when they relaunched the Child palette, and they didn't really give The Mandalorian his own moment, and they definitely should have, because the show is so popular. Then we have the Child palette. I think this is such a cute palette. I love the video that I did for them when I did this, and I think they did such a good job with this. My palette did come a little bit broken. The shade The Forest did come in shattered. This is definitely like up my alley for color scheme. You guys know how much I do love this particular color scheme. I thought they did such a wonderful job with the colors, with the theming, and this is such a great palette. So that's why it's so hard to kind of rank it down here, because there are ones I do love just a little bit more. But this was such a beautiful palette. I still really do love it a lot. Alrighty, next we do have the So Jaded. This is the Caffeine Lights. And again, I never reviewed this for you guys. But I remember this being so highly coveted, and I finally bought it for myself. I tried it like once or twice. And it's a beautiful palette. I would definitely say it's a beautiful palette. She definitely has a lot more mattes in here. There were some glitters in here that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I just thought it was a really well thought out palette. I really do enjoy how they really try to hit the theming. I really did enjoy how they try to hit the theming of all the gemstones. I think Kathleen Lights did a good job, and I love the fact that her palette was a really big palette compared to being like a really small palette, and I just think it's a really overall cute palette. I'm really glad that I got it. But I did save my money and I got it during the 30% off sale. All right, then we have the Smoke and Roses palette. I think this palette is beautiful. This palette is absolutely beautiful to me. I think they did such a great job with this palette, and this is definitely one of those palettes that you can wear every single day. This is an every single day wear palette, and I do love the pinky tones, soft neutral tones, but you could also spice it up and do a little bit more smokier looks with this one. I love the fact that there was no pressed glitter, so it was all shimmers, and this is where it's starting to get hard for me because I really am starting to love these palettes a lot, and it's hard for me to like narrow it down, but I just still prefer other ones a little bit more. But this is still such a gorgeous palette. Like, I think it's so pretty. You know what's so funny is I think you guys know what my number one is going to be, and I think you guys are all going to be surprised what my number one is, because I think all of you guys have an idea what it is. But let me know right now if you guys think let me know in the comments below before you get past this part what you guys think my number one would be, because I want to see who generally is right. Okay, so next we do have the rock candy one, and I still love the packaging on this. I love the packaging. The color scheme on this is so freaking pretty. I got it so dirty, and I just feel like they did such a beautiful job. I really do enjoy cool tone palettes for sure. I wish I could have gone away with the freaking glitters, because like these two as shimmers would have been perfect, like perfect, but they definitely still had to put the glitters in here. But it's such a beautiful cool tone palette. I don't know why I love cool tones so much. I just do. I think it's just because at the end of the day, I don't have as many cool tone palettes as I do warm tone palettes. That's probably why I have like a soft spot for it, but it's still such a gorgeous palette. And I feel like they did such a good job with the theming of it, and the little rocks, and I just really like it when Colourpop has big palettes like this, just because it gives you a variety of colors to choose from. Next we do have the Bare Necessities palette. Now this is definitely a beautiful palette to go towards if you're looking for an everyday neutral palette. This is definitely one for you. It gives you so many different shades to choose from. You could do so many looks with this. So this pairs well with so many of the other Colourpop palettes. I thought they did such a good job with this, and I thoroughly did enjoy this palette. I still pick it up if I ever need to do like a neutral eye look. Sometimes I'll grab this one, but there's still one that you guys might be surprised that I still gravitate to a lot, but I still really do enjoy this one. Next we do have the Stone Cold Fox palette. This is such a gorgeous palette. This is their, look how dirty mine is. This is their this is her cool tone, and again, I freaking love the cool tones. Cool tones is just so freaking pretty. This pairs well with all of their other palettes. It pairs well with the Bare Necessities, with the Rock Candy, with the Stones and Roses palette. This pairs so much, like so well. And if you're ever looking, and if you're like a makeup artist, like this is definitely, I feel like, a palette you can gravitate to, because you have so many mattes and so many different undertones in here that you could pick from. They did such a good job with this for sure. I think it's so beautiful, and that rock bottom black is such a stunning color. Such a stunning black. All right, next we have Good as Gold. This was their New Year's Eve launch. I think their 2020 New Year's Eve launch. And this is such a pretty palette. Like such a pretty palette. I love this palette so much. If you're ever looking to have like a Christmas eyeshadow palette, I definitely recommend this when looking for gold, because it was such a beautiful thought out palette. I had so much fun wearing this. I love the shade Golden Touch. Odd Team, Gold Star, Gilded, 24 karat was my favorite. I loved getting this palette. I remember I bought the whole collection. I don't recall if I reviewed it. I think I did. But I think this is like the perfect New Year's Eve palette. I think they did such a wonderful job with the New Year's Eve theme that I just still go towards this one. If I ever want like a golden eyeshadow look, this is still one to definitely go for. Next, we do have the Witching Hour palette from Hocus Pocus. I've recently just reviewed this past October. And I do enjoy it because I do love like Halloween palettes. Like those are still some of my favorite palettes, but I feel like they could have done a better job when it came to Hocus Pocus. Like I didn't really care too much for this one as I do the other one, but I still enjoyed it because they released like the black candle with this one. They did release different like style lipsticks, but I still do enjoy this palette. I can't help it. I think just because maybe it is Hocus Pocus theme, and it kind of like definitely, I feel like it does kind of balance the other one out just a little bit more, and I don't know. I know people definitely didn't care for this one, but I still do enjoy it. I can't help it. I still love the theming. I have a soft spot for it. Next we have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I loved this collection. I loved it so much, and I thought they did such a good job with the palette. Like, it just looks like a Christmas palette to me. I thought they did a good job with the outside theming on it, the colors on the inside. I love the look they created, and I just thought this was such a cool little launch. They did a really good job with this, and I remember I just really enjoyed playing with this palette for sure. For sure. I think it's a really cute Christmas palette. Like, it just looks like Christmas to me. Next we have the Gather Around Sisters. This collection was so hyped. It sold out so freaking fast. And again, this is a beautiful Halloween palette to me. I just love Halloween palettes. I thought they did such a good job. I wish I would have made Brew Potion a shimmer, not a glitter, but I had fun playing with this launch. I really had a lot of fun playing with it, and I just have a really soft spot for this. I also have this thing. I'm obsessed when Colourpop does mattes with like shimmers in them. I don't know, like the mattes with like the glitter to it. It's just so freaking pretty to me, and a lot of these mattes in here have that. That's why I love it so much. I don't know, I feel like Colourpop did such a great job when it comes to formulating mattes with glitter in them. Like, they're just so pretty. I don't know what they're called, but they're just so pretty. I love it. Next, we do have the Sweet Talk palette. Now, I actually bought this because Robert Christie did a review on it, and I ended up buying it, and I fell in love with the eye look that she created, and I used this palette so much. Like, this is what I wore almost every single day when I went to work. The shade right here, I don't even know the name of it anymore because it's been so used. The name is kind of gone. I was obsessed with using Dreammaker, Meadow, and then this shimmer right here. I loved the look I created with it. This was my go-to everyday palette when I was serving at Disney. I thought this was such a beautiful palette. I will always have such a soft spot for this because this is one of my first palettes that I used religiously and nonstop, because at that time I was really getting into YouTube. So I was trying out all these new different palettes, and I didn't really go into them as much as I did other ones, and this was one of those palettes that was like my everyday palette. It consistently sat on my desk, and yeah, I really do enjoy this palette. I still think this is like such a pretty shade. I just can't get over how gorgeous like this shade is. It's like that. It's like just like a beautiful topper, and it could go on top of any shade, and it's stunning. It's so pretty. Next, we have the Wild Nothing palette. I loved this palette. I was really obsessed with the look that I created, and I just was so obsessed with the shade Seashells, Spirited, Coastline, Crystal Cove, and Hot Springs. Like, these were such gorgeous shades, and I really was obsessed with the look I created. I think this is when I really started diving deep into like really loving my eye looks and like realizing that I'm getting a little bit better at blending, and I just had so much fun with this palette. It's like a soft neutral palette, so who would have thought I really enjoyed this, but I really love this palette. I just thought it was so pretty. Next, we have the Orange You Glad. Oh, I had so much fun in this video. I loved this palette so much. This is such a gorgeous palette. I think it's so pretty, and I remember using that shade Clementine, and I do enjoy it, but I just prefer their shimmers in here so much more. But I have such a soft spot for this palette because it's orange. Orange is my absolute favorite color. I loved reviewing this palette. I love playing with this palette, and I just feel like this is like that perfect fall palette that I grab every single year. I'll never get enough of this palette. I'll never get enough of like this orange right here. Sunkissed. So stunning. Such a beautiful palette. This is like where it really gets hard for me to narrow it down. Like, it does. Then we have the Honey. I love this one too because I love yellows. I love yellow a lot, and this was such a beautiful palette. I love the shade Sweet Spot and Oh Behave. Oh Behave was so pretty. And the shade Dandy and Queen Bee and Sunburst. I didn't play with the pressed glitter that much, but again, this is a beautiful yellow palette. Colourpop did such a good job when it came to their monochromatic palettes, and I love this one so damn much. It was such a beautiful eye look that I created. I remember being so in love with it, and this again is just so beautiful. It complements Orange You Glad so well. I love it. I love it. Next, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. I just reviewed this, and I just think this is such a pretty palette. I feel like they did such a good job when, hitting the theme of the Avatar collection. The only thing I wish I would have changed is the Earth side, but at the end of the day, I love this palette. I love the look that I created with it. It was such a fun palette to play with, and I thought that Colourpop did the Avatar: The Last Airbender series really well. They did a wonderful collection, so I think that's why I'm obsessed with it. I also love the show way too damn much, so that's probably why I'm also like, this is amazing, because they did such a good job. The concept was really well thought of, and I'm so glad that Colourpop did this. Like, so glad. Next, we have the It's a mood. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fall palette. If you guys are looking for a fall palette from Colourpop, say no more. It's this one. This is a gorgeous palette. I love the look that I created when I reviewed this palette, and I have definitely picked this one up time and time again off camera just to keep playing with stuff, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this palette. I think this is like one of those go-to palettes that I will bring out every single fall starting in like July, because that's when fall starts for me. And I just love it. I think it's such a beautiful palette. I loved playing with this, and I love the review that I did with this. So Colourpop did a wonderful job on this one. Alrighty guys, coming in at number 4, we do have Fade into Hue. This is such a beautiful palette. So gorgeous. This was their beautiful like rainbow palette, and I feel like Colourpop did such a great job at the rainbow palette. I remember this came out the same time that Morphe did like their Lisa Frank palette, and everybody, myself included, saying this would have been the Lisa Frank palette. This is how it's supposed to look, and they just did such a phenomenal job. They could have done again without the glitters, but I feel like this is like the perfect rainbow palette that Colourpop has ever created. Not only is it beautiful, but it's also pastel, and I love pastels. You do have like your deep rainbow shades right here, but everything else is pastel based. And I just love pastels so much. I have a very, very soft spot for pastels. I think they're so pretty, and they can make everybody look gorgeous whenever you wear them. And this is just such a gorgeous palette. Like, I just love this palette way too much. Colourpop did a phenomenal job. This is probably one of my favorite like rainbow palettes that Colourpop has ever created, and they did such a good job. And I freaking just love the packaging too. Like, so beautiful. Coming in number 3, we do have I Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts, Diddly Do. We have the Going Coconuts palette. I was thoroughly surprised at how much I freaking love this palette. My palette is so dirty. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous everyday neutral palette. Like this shade right here, Cocoa Cream, I have used like there's no tomorrow. Colada and Lovely Bunches and Shelia and Palm Reader are my absolute dire go-to. And then I also love Get Crackin' because it's a matte with shimmer in it. And this is my everyday go-to neutral palette. To this day, I still pick this palette up a lot as an everyday neutral palette. I just feel like it's so easy, so effortless to use. I'm obsessed with this. If this is still around, I highly recommend this so much because it's a perfect neutral eyeshadow palette. Like, you guys know that I am slowly getting into neutrals, and this was such an amazing palette. Like, I was so impressed with how much I went back into this. I literally am starting to hit pan on Cocoa Cream, and that never happens for me because I have so many eyeshadow palettes, but I just kept going to this one over and over and over and over again. And that says a lot when I keep going back into the same palette, how much I freaking love it. And it's so dirty because I literally have used this like there's no tomorrow. And like I said, if it's still available, please go get it because it's well worth it. Number 2, which I think you guys might be surprised, we have the At Foresight. This is the Raw Bitty Christie collaboration with Colourpop, and this is such a beautiful color scheme. Like, I love this palette so much. I think Colourpop did such a phenomenal job. Christie did such a phenomenal job. This sold out so freaking quickly. They did a restock on it, which Colourpop doesn't do that often, and I just love the color scheme. I love Raw Bitty Christie, so this has always been a top favorite of mine. My favorite side is this side on, just because these are definitely the colors that I definitely go for. But she did such a great job. The Evergreen and West Coast and Fiddlehead and Emerald Cities are my top favorite, but I also love Santrelli. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I'm unbelievably gorgeous. Definitely go into this one a lot. Alrighty guys, coming in at number 1, which might shock all of you guys, but this one has been my ride or die. This is the one that I have gone into so many times, and whenever you guys have seen me do this particular eye look or colors like that look similar to this, it's because of this eyeshadow palette. And I know that it's my, and I know that if I continuously go back to this palette, or I look forward to using this palette when fall is approaching, it's because I love it so damn much. And it is Little Ray Sunshine. This palette is my absolute favorite from Colourpop, and the reason being, it's an all matte palette. It's an all matte palette, but this shade right here in particular, this is called Sunnies. Do you guys not see how dug into that is? Sunnies is gorgeous, and I also love mixing it with these 3 shades right here, but I tend to do a look right here. This to me is my perfect fall palette. I know it's weird because it doesn't look like it's fall, but it is. Like, this palette is so gorgeous. I love it way too much. The mattes in here are just so incredibly pigmented. They're true to color. They blend out so beautifully. And whenever I create my eye look, I just use these 3 colors right here, and I just am obsessed. I'm obsessed. Like, this is the one palette that you guys have seen me use so many times. I've done so many different eye looks with this. I love the video that I created when I used this. I love like the all matte eyeshadow. And this palette right here is so freaking versatile because I mix it with so many other Colourpop palettes. I can go into Honey, Orange Glad, Raw Beauty Christie's palette, and I can literally take all the mattes in here, find other shimmers and other palettes that I want to combine it with, and it's just amazing. This has been my go-to fall palette. I freaking love it so much. I can never get enough of that shade Sunnies. It is like that perfect mustard yellow, and I freaking love mustard yellow so freaking much. It is my favorite. And then I also love Vibes and the shade Limoncello. Like this was, it's gorgeous. I have nothing else to say other than I love this palette so much. Like this has been like a ride or die for me. I've gone into it so much. I never ever ever dig this deep into a matte shadow, especially in Colourpops, because I have so many, and this one is like about to hit pan. That's how much I freaking love this palette, and if anything were to happen to it, I would actually be devastated. I was just so blown away of how much I love this palette. So it was my number one. And I don't know if anyone remembers me reviewing this palette, but I love the look that I created. That was my first time really venturing out and doing a halo eye with all matte. And I just feel like it was such an effortless, pretty look that I used when I created this. And I remember I dug into Honey to add some shimmer toppers. These two complement each other so freaking much. It's like not even funny how much they complement each other. So I love it. And if it's still available, that out of all these palettes, that is my number one. You guys go get it, go try it out. You'll thank me later for it. But I cannot believe I have 87 Colourpop palettes. That's a lot. You guys know how much I love Colourpop. I have been reviewing them for years, and even though I don't own every single Colourpop palette has ever come out with, and I don't buy every single launch anymore, I buy stuff that just genuinely excites me, I think Colourpop has amazing quality. I just think Colourpop is an amazing brand, and they have amazing quality products. Their mattes are always so pigmented. You know they're going to blend like crazy, and the shimmers are just gorgeous. They're going to last you all day. They definitely have a creamy buttery texture that just shine on your eye, and it's just, I love Colourpop. I really do. I really do. So hopefully this video makes sense. I know things went kind of fast because I had so many palettes to go through, and I'm sorry I didn't like go over every single palette, but it's like when it comes into like a collection like this, it's kind of hard to, because I consider it like more like one palette. But if you actually physically count every single palette, I have 87 Colourpop palettes. 87, and I'm sure by the end of the year I'll have over 100. I have 2 drawers alone dedicated just to Colourpop, and it's because I love it so much. I love Colourpop. I love the way they look in my collection, and I'm very proud of every single thing that I have, because especially when it comes to like my monochromatic ones, like these ones hold such a special place to me, because that's where I really was getting started on YouTube, and I'll always hold on to those. So anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. I know this was a long one. Like I said, I hope it makes sense, because it kind of went fast over a few of them, just because I don't want this video to be an hour and a half long, because I don't know if you're going to watch me for an hour and a half, but hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. Let me know down below what brand you want to see next. I'm definitely doing Lunar Beauty, because some of you guys asked me to do Lunar Beauty. I could do Jacqueline Cosmetics, but she doesn't really have any eyeshadow palettes. So let me know what brand you guys want to see next. I could do Dominique Cosmetics. I could do Natasha Denona. I could do Huda Beauty. Milk Cosmetics. I'm sure a lot more. So yeah, guys, that is it for today's video, guys. I really hope you guys liked today's video. If you do, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already, so I do post 4 to 5 videos a week. Lately it's been 5. Make sure you guys head over to my other channels, R for the Life. You guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures, my amazing husband Corey, and as always, a huge thank you goes to every single one of these beautiful page members you guys see right here. Thank you guys seriously so much for everything. I love you guys. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribed, you guys did not subscribe, either way, seriously, just thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys very next video. Bye.